Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm sitting in a different area of my room today because I was trying to find a good spot to film and I feel like I've used every spot that I normally film at a lot and thought it'd be nice to get a little different area, so that's why I chose over here. So I decided that in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about how I go from a concept to an idea to an outline and to a story. I decided in this video I'm going to try and talk about my process as detailed as I can, bearing in mind that my process changes with every project I write and with every genre that I write, because my genres are so different from each other. I need different levels of outlining, I need to know different things and things like that. Starting with a concept, a very basic concept or idea that I get. These concepts slash ideas come just completely randomly, no reason for them being there, they just come. And my best ideas happen when I don't expect to get an idea. So for instance, I'll name a couple of ideas, a couple of my projects and where their ideas came from. So my dystopian trilogy, the project, there's 2 books currently written. That idea for those books came when I was reading a Wattpad book and I had this idea for something the characters could do because I thought it was really cool and it like show off their skill, because in this book they were like super skilled. So I was like, you know, maybe they should do this, and it was just an idea I had and I just sort of let it rest for a couple of years, and then I decided to pick up the story again because I had developed a brand new idea for it just out of nowhere. It's been a few years but it just came and I was like, okay, I'll write it down. And then I tried to outline it and I left that for a while. I managed to think of what could happen for the first act, but I just left it, and then I just started working on it and we're here now with a sci-fi that I want to work on soon. That came because I crossed the bridge. There's a little bit more to that, but I can't really explain my thought process because then that like reveals one of the biggest plots. But essentially I was crossing a bridge and this idea came. And then there's this other story that I haven't really talked about because it just came to me pretty recently, and it's a mystery slash fantasy slash adventure book, and it was inspired by comments someone made, completely unrelated, but I took that and I interpreted that as something else and the idea struck. I have my idea or concept now which came out of nowhere, and the first thing that I do is write it down and let it sit. When I get an idea, it has to sit because I can't force ideas, and if I try to, I end up with terrible plot points and just the most boring book you could ever think, just a whole book of filler. So I normally leave it to sit and I wait to be struck by inspiration, which I don't think is the best approach, but is the way I get my best words and it's what I do every time I get an idea. However, after I let it sit for a while and I managed to come up with some subplot and some themes and things I want to happen, my next step is to ask myself questions when I think of like a bunch of ideas to follow it, because then I have like a sort of, I understand the sort of responses I could give to those questions. And my questions are normally ones like, what's happened directly before this? Or how did this come to be? I might even ask, where is this set? What time is this set in? What disaster can shift the status quo of this world? Because of course, something has to happen to shift the status quo of this world. That's how you get the catalyst, that's how your characters grow, that's your whole book. Something to shift the status quo. And I normally say disaster because my books tend to be disaster books where characters are met with a bad situation and they have to fix it. I would just keep asking questions and questions and questions until I don't know what else to ask, and then that means I move on to my next step, and that is outlining the beats using my favorite craft book of all time, Save the Cat by Jessica Brody. Outlining beats takes me forever, especially because I don't understand my entire story when I try to go about it. My concept is normally like the catalyst part of the book, so I have to work around the catalyst. So I have to think of something that could have happened before, and then I have to think of how the catalyst shifts the world. So it's a lot for me to think about, especially because I can't force ideas. But Save the Cat is the next step. I go through the entire beat sheet and I outline the beats. This takes me like 2 weeks minimum. It can take me a month though, it can take me a couple months, and if a story is not main priority and it's just sort of there, then it can take me absolutely forever to sit down and outline, especially because as much as I love plotting, I hate plotting at the same time. Like, I love having an outline, but I hate the process of doing it. I just want my story to be written already. Then once my beat sheet is complete after forever, I move on to the next step, and it is actually filling the blanks that beat sheet left. So if there's a character, like I usually say MC or OC, which means original character in the art world, but for me it means other character, SF, significant figure, things like that. I give them initials, and then during this next step that I do, I fill in the initials. So I create characters, I answer world building questions. If there's a magic system in my book, then I world build this magic system. I build this magic system to be something. So this is also a pretty lengthy process, but I think it does happen a lot faster, mostly because by the time I've outlined loosely, I understand the sort of characters that should be playing a role in this book, because of their actions during the plot, because of their relevance during the plot, those kind of things. And just like for the very original concept, I answer questions. I find questions of the internet, I ask questions I think need to be answered, like character appearance, how the magic came to be, the rules of the world, things like that, and I answer those questions. Sometimes, and this has happened like 3 times out of my entire writing experience, I will go on the internet, specifically Pinterest, and look for inspiration for images, specifically for like settings, because for some reason I just can't grasp onto how settings look like in my books until I get an image and can make a new image based on what I saw. I don't know why I struggle so much with the image. I mean, I guess that makes sense since I am so bad at descriptions. If I do find an image, I put it on the dock and I keep it there until my new image doesn't fit anymore. Once all my world building stuff is complete, my beats are outlined, I know who the characters are, and everything is just done, and I know this world really well, I move on to one of the lengthiest, important, really time-consuming part of this process, and that is chapter outlining. I am nothing without my chapter outlines. I need to know what happens in each chapter, otherwise I'm lost. And the way I chapter outline is by using my beats, obviously, but then also trying to incorporate a character's personality into the chapters. So if I mention that my character really likes to knit, then in one of the chapters you will see her knitting, or you'll see him knitting, because I think that like it's better if I present them doing what they like and the readers know they like to do this, rather than saying so and so likes to knit. I have a really bad habit for telling rather than showing, so my best thing, or the thing I do to try and combat this, is adding in chapters where characters' personality, hobbies, interests shine through. And this can be looked as filler, but I normally try to make it like a crucial part of the plot. So I don't give a character a hobby like ice skating and then never mention it. It can be like a funny little Easter egg, but if a character tends to like something or do something, then I end up bringing that into the plot, so readers know this. I chapter outline, and I make sure all my chapters are outlined. I don't normally give myself like this many chapters has to be in the book, or my book has to be this many words, so this is how many chapters has to be in it. I just chapter outline, I just outline chapters until I get to the end of my beat sheet. Then I know that's the end of the book, so then I know whatever chapter I'm working on is the final chapter. Okay, so I managed to make my concept into something more of a story. I managed to get this new thing and add a world to it, add people to it, make it a feasible, understandable story. And then I managed to plot my story so I know what happens from start to finish. However, what happens after that? I start drafting. So I open up a document, I add in a title page, which is normally the initials I give the concept, and then I have my name under it, / the draft I'm on, which is normally draft 1. And then below that, I format the chapter and I start writing. Writing drafts, first drafts, normally take me around 6 months, and these are like 50 to 60k word stories. So they're pretty much, like, it might not seem like they're underwritten, but considering the genres they're in, they're underwritten. So I need to then obviously worry about leaving it for a while, then coming back to it, revising it, bulking it up, adding in the things I missed. But that is a completely different process, and a process I'm only just starting to learn about. That was my brainstorming, outlining, conceptualizing process. This is, like, my process is very similar to what I described. Sometimes it does change up. Sometimes I entirely skip the chapter outlining bit and do scene outlining. Sometimes I entirely just skip it overall and just do very basic outlines. And that is the case for my standalone. So I think it takes me on average like 4 months to properly, thoroughly outline a book, which is crazy long. But bear in mind, at the same time that I'm doing that, I'm drafting stories, revising stories, just procrastinating. So I probably could do things a lot faster if I just sat down and wrote, but I don't do that a lot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed hearing about my process. Let me know how your process is. Is it like mine? Is it way different than mine? Or are you a pantser, so you don't really do any of it? Yeah, thank you for watching. I hope to have a video out soon, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!